Welcome to the March 11th OpenZFS production user call. We have Andrew, Levi, Rob, Stu, and myself, Michael. And I did have a link for this nifty tool about snapshot browsing. Levi, I think you found that. If you're listening,
What? Oh, yes.
tell us more.
Yeah.
And Eva
I
mentioned that, hey, that
stumbled,
looks like the old time slider from Solaris. Go ahead.
it was mentioned somewhere on Reddit, and that's where I caught wind of it, but I haven't actually tested it quite yet to see if it was usable.
Cool. Oh, right. I saw videos and didn't quite play them, but hey, the link is in the doc. Enjoy. And that said, I don't have the link handy, but Rob, it sounds like you updated the Linux compatibility on descriptions on the ZFS documentation doc. What did you achieve and what should the world know? I will stop my video out of respect for the people behind me. Yes, there's the doc. Good man.
Um, yeah, so uh what we've done, oh right, you've got it on screen.
Of
What we've
course.
done
Brilliant.
upstream is we haven't changed what's actually supported, but for Linux at least, we used to say kernels 4.18 to now 6.19, I think. Um, and that was kind of not really right because it was only written that way because Red Hat Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8, which is their like oldest supported one, they branch off a particular base kernel and then they keep that number for the entire like series, the entire lifetime of the product, which is like 10 years. And they backport and they backport and they backport and they backport, but they never ever change the base version. So they end up, I think for RHEL 7, it was like 3.10 1200 or something. In the end, the number of patches they have. And so what that means is that if you go and we used to say 418, if you go and get a 418 off the shelf, um, well, it won't build because it was never a long-term supported release of Linux. Um, so we don't really support that anyway. But also a lot of the newer features we need actually exist backported into that rel kernel anyway, and our feature checks find it. So instead of declaring a minimum of 418, we are now we don't have a minimum anymore. The minimum is whatever or the if the feature checks we do at build time pass, then we will build on that kernel. And then because we need it to be easier, we need to communicate something. We've now got in the README a whole bunch of like, here are some specific releases that we target. But generally, if it's got any of the kernel upstream long-term kernels, if it's on any of those series, it's going to work. So it's sort of it's arguably not as clearly communicated, but the clear communication before was wrong as well. So it's like these are the joys of Linux, but that's all. But if you didn't know about any of this, then nothing has changed. We continue to support basically every serious Linux that is in support by its vendor, and
It
that's the
is
way it's always been.
it is not as well communicated, but it's more accurate.
Yeah, and the background reason for doing this is that there is an interface in the kernel that appeared in 5.2, so very close to our previous minimum, because 419, then the next one was 5.0. There's an interface in the kernel that appeared in 5.2 that I want to use, and I've been looking at what needs to happen for like backward compatibility, and it turns out that Red Hat have backported that, and literally every other Linux anywhere runs 5.10 plus, which means it actually exists on everything we're targeting. And the only thing making me do a backward compatibility was an arbitrary number. So I'm like, well, can we remove that arbitrary number? And it was like, and
traveling with our Canada 553 service to Vancouver. Speaking to the following passenger on how managed it is
Something like that.
with the nature connected to the counter. So behavior name or something similar.
Cool. And Stu, you had some recent surprises on revisions almost regressing for you. Is this type of information helpful or confirm what you saw in the wild?
To an extent, I mean, the goes back to the long term, what LTS actually means,
Right. Yes.
putting breaking things in sys and proc. Yeah, that's not the right way to play.
Has anyone heard of Cache OS? I'll throw that out there because it's a gaming distro that Entrene found, and he found that the out of the box ZFS support was quite good. And actually a very pleasant surprise. I'll just throw
yeah,
that in
that
on
one,
his
yeah,
For
yeah, that one's on our radar. They've done good. They've done good integration work there.
Not
Um,
only,
Sometimes places just do good integration work and you never really hear much about it. So that's good.
not only have I heard about it, I have the machine running it. So
Tell us
Yeah.
more.
is there, how much more is there to tell?
Apparently you choose like the actual CPU architecture and build a kernel towards it, or you download one for it or something like that. Tell me.
They
That's
do
my
have,
definition of more.
okay, I can speak to that a little bit. They're still binary packages, but for specific kernel levels or specific processor levels, they have different sets of pre-built binaries. Notably, the particular machine I'm running it on is in the AMD APU and a relatively recent one. So I got to use like the I think the Zen 4 stuff. And so there's a benefit to that. And basically it's a Arch derivative. So what they'll do is they pull most of the stuff from just the normal kind of Arch packages. And then some of these they've rebuilt with architecture specific things.
Cool, thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to understand better. And are you using root on ZFS with it?
I'm not, because the thing is just, it's got one disk in it. And I mean, it's an APU. So half the stuff's soldered on board. It's just got a single SSD on it. And anything that needs any kind of reliability is going off to my file server anyway.
Fair enough.
So, which is running ZFS.
Naturally.
So I didn't feel the need to do that.
I would love to hear if Cache OS upgrades are painless for root on ZFS systems, as that's been a pain point.
I mean, obviously, as to from a ZFS integration perspective, I can't speak to it because I'm not using their ZFS support on it.
No worries.
But
No
I can
worries.
tell you they are, like Arch, a rolling release distro. So a lot of upgrades all the time.
All the reason to have smooth ZFS upgrades.
True, but the big kind of annoyance is, I think the biggest annoyance with it is it does regularly want to reboot. And it's like, oh, this is the 32nd kernel you've done this month. Really,
Okay.
guys? And half the time I ignore it.
Sure. Cool. Thank you. Steve, welcome.
No problem.
It's perhaps been a while. Do you have any questions or topics?
Sorry about that. Trying to find the button.
No worries. That's assumed that we're all struggling with our
No,
interfaces.
nothing right now. I'm just listening in.
Cool. Oof. Let's see. If I did a search for on the dock AVX, what would happen? I would find this chart that Rob brilliantly contributed to. Be like Rob. And by scrolling, I lost you. There it is. Rob, is this a good time to, if anything, explain how far you got with this and what feedback you could use from the group? The kind of goal was to shed the initial flashlight swing on the roaches of like, okay, what hardware acceleration do we have for that applies to ZFS? And then who is lucky enough to have it in their OS and release of choice? I fear that this is highly multidimensional and might be a challenge to convey, but maybe some of it's super linear with be it ZFS versions or kernel versions or something.
Yeah. Apart from that, I haven't put SHA-512 in there to update for
A
the
new feature, yes.
very recent.
Go team.
But
Yes.
but yes, apart from that, I have nothing to add. That is kind of raw data. I know it's right, and I don't know how to. I don't really know how to present it, so I'm happy for someone to take that and present it if they would wish, but if they would like. But yes, it is. There are axes there. There is some whether it's supported on which ZFS platform it's supported on, which ZFS version it's supported on, how whether it needs kernel support or not, and those lines are drawn differently for various reasons. And some of those reasons are ad hoc, and I am going to be changing them in the next probably this year. So
Changing in an upstream sense.
yeah,
Okay.
drawing the lines differently. Like everything will continue to support the thing that it supports. But it's things like there I want to change the abstractions inside ZFS for how the encryption is wired up. So for example, right now, if you are on FreeBSD for your encryption, you only get what the kernel supports, whatever whatever acceleration exists in FreeBSD itself. Even though ZFS bundles like accelerated implementations of things that we mostly get from OpenSSL, those are not usable on FreeBSD. Like we don't compile them that way. That's the F cloning platform. Similarly, on the other side, if the QAT support still works and hasn't bit rotten, it's wired in a way that it can't be used. It can only be used on the Linux side. What I want to have it is the way I want to have it set up is that if you are on Linux and you say, I want, AES GCM, it will say, cool, you use the accelerated ones inside OpenZFS. And if you're on FreeBSD, it will go, oh, cool, I have two implementations. I have the OpenZFS one and I have the FreeBSD kernel one. And you can choose, or we can benchmark them or whatever. And that means if one has a better implementation of something, like say, SHA-512X, then you still get some acceleration for it rather than being limited by, you know, who has upgraded first, if that makes sense.
Would
So
that be a conscious action on the part of the user, or would it transparently benchmark and choose?
I'm
We are
I'm
thinking for a
intending it,
Shannon through June.
sorry, the one thing that does come through the background is the paging announcements, but not the ambient
I've
noise.
muted
So
for
it's fine.
that.
So every now and then it's okay. Yes, it would be like it is now, which is we look at all the providers we have, we run a micro benchmark and choose the fastest one, and there'll be a selector through a syscontrol or through some other mechanism.
You say run micro benchmarks like consciously or transparently to the user?
Oh, transparently to the user.
Oh,
That's what
interesting.
ZFS already does that. If it's like, oh, I've got 5 implementations of this thing, it's like I'll do a little run on each of them and see which is quicker, and
That's
I'll
awesome.
use that one.
Ooh,
But
like
then
it.
there's a suite. So that's the auto, or no, that's the fastest sort of pseudo selector. These things come up more often on Linux because again, FreeBSD, you just get what the kernel gives you. So uh, but not all of them. I mean, on for checksums on FreeBSD, those partially use the ZFS ones as well, and so you get the selector for that.
Indeed.
Anyway, as noted, there are a lot of different variables and way to draw this. So yeah,
So if
I would
anyone
like
present other
that.
than Rob has a unique interest in clearly communicating this to the outside world, please start with whatever you know best and build out from there. Because you've kindly added different architectures. So is there any test code in the ecosystem to test these sort of in situs outside of a production system and just step through or smoke test or run the ZFS test suite and say, hey, check boxes of what is supported and then potentially benchmark from there? Or is that just all runtime production stuff?
There's a mix of bits and pieces. There is for the ones that ZFS bundles, there is a couple of I'd have to find them, but there's a couple of tests in the test suite which are also standalone programs that will basically just like run all the different ones and confirm that they all produce the correct results, by the test vectors and whatever. So those run in user space, and they are testing the OpenZFS bundled implementations, but they're not testing them as running the kernel. Nothing from the ZFS side is testing the FreeBSD kernel implementations because we just assume they work. So yeah, and then there's for the ones that are wired up the right way, there's ways to induce the benchmarks to run, and there's certain syscontrol switches or so certain case stats you can look at to see the results. It is a bit all over the place.
Well, so to
That's the
help
thing. I would like
corral
it
it
to be
in,
far less all over the place.
can you name an example where you're dependent on the FreeBSD kernel supporting it and the test suite will not catch it?
Yeah, well, all the oh, hang on, the test. So all the encryption options, so AES GCM and AES CCM, if you run those on FreeBSD in the kernel, you are using the in-kernel crypto, which is kind of a black box as far as ZFS is concerned. The test suite will catch. We don't specifically do like algorithm tests against those. The test suite running on FreeBSD would catch some kinds of problems in that some of the tests will, they'll create an encrypted data set and write some data to it and then export the pool and then run ZDB to check certain characteristics. And because ZDB uses the ZFS internal crypto, if there was a mismatch, things wouldn't match up and the test would fail. But it's not an explicit test. Again, I feel like if the in-kernel crypto broke, we'd notice. Well, like it would be noticed by FreeBSD because it's the same stuff that's used for, like all the network stuff and the TLS handoff and the, IPsec and like all of those systems. So yes, it's tested incidentally.
Cool, thank you. Only 3 examples here. Trying to. Does anyone else have a unique interest or question about this? As I sense it's the tip of the iceberg, but it's a very nice iceberg to explore, given that there are some significant gains, especially if anyone should looking at used to have a product based on OpenZFS and think, oh, we have a value add where choosing this CPU or adding this accelerator card like the good old days could, double your compression speed or something magical. Anyhow. Well, thank you very much, Rob, for producing this, and let's all together not let it bit rot. And once it's cohesive in its dimensions, let's get it on the wiki or GitHub per that documentation you just showed. Because that seems to be supported kernels and distributions is the page, although it's
I'm
the
pretty
link
sure
it's a hash. There we go. It's just a pound. Go ahead, Andrew.
I'm pretty sure we're well within the realm of things that I'm very interested in hearing more about, but maybe not completely qualified to help with.
Well, once we map out how to determine what is in ZFS and what is in kernel, that's where your Illumos knowledge would be valuable insofar as, oh, we support this, this, and this. Perhaps, dare I say, we even want this, this, and this, and can learn from OpenZFS compared to Lithium-based ZFS. I just want to advance this along at whatever pace we can.
Absolutely.
I guess knowing what the questions are is like this is raw data, but I don't know what questions people are asking.
Sure. Well, any given person has their system, be it that sort of mini PC or that new 256 core AMD or even Ampere, and some little aspect of the test suite that could be run separately and say, hey, by the way, you will benefit from all of these features. Your checksumming will benefit from feature A, B, C, and D. Your encryption acceleration will benefit from D, E, F, hypothetically. Because people have a bad habit of throwing hardware at problems when a lower end chip of a different generation that has an acceleration feature might be the answer to the problem they're trying to solve. So especially with the supply constraints of the hour, I think it's a good thing to just get the understanding out there.
That kind of sounds like benchmarking.
It does, but it's informed benchmarking where you know what to look for. And if you have, say, 20 machines, you know to start with the one that has, feature AVX 512 or SHA 512 or whatever. Just rather than doing it blindly. Thank you, Rob. Other thoughts, concerns, questions, ideas, fun upcoming things? I am pleased to report that BSD CAN is now out of the danger zone on funding, which is always, well, stress relieving, if anything. It might even leave room for humble travel grants like we did last year, such that if anyone would say due south of there, not pointing at anyone specific, maybe it's a touch more accessible to you. I will be speaking about event planning, should any of you care about event planning and find them useful and want to have, say, a ZFS event in Australia, etc., etc. Because I think anyone can put on an event which could simply be, let's meet at this time and have beer and pizza and discuss ZFS. That's a pretty little machine in. Okay.
Yeah, my other little mini PC kind of hit the limits of what I could do with it.
I see. May have overshot my document here. I think I did. Rob, do you have anything to report on the nifty development work you're doing? Or it's coming and it'll be ready when it's ready.
No, nothing much at the moment. I have spent the last 2 weeks rewriting all of the mount management code, which is massive, massive, massive lift, but it's going to be sweet.
Oh, wait, mount management. So in fact, you do have a perfect segue to our last discussion of what in fact is a mount point. Is that what I heard?
Yes.
That's you are not doing yourself justice here. Let's see. So Rob,
I kind of forgotten about that conversation a little bit. Not entirely. I have it in my notes, but I came away from that with like, right, the mount point property should not be touched for the moment, but that's okay. No, so I mean, this is all. People mostly won't notice a difference except in certain cases where you had something particularly weird, like you had, bind mounts, additional bind mounts all over the place, or strange overmounts or whatever. Will handle them properly when you say unmount and mount. So that's the difference people will see. But uh, all of the work is inside it's inside the user space tools and libzfs for the moment. So basically right now there's like 5 or 6 places where the code goes out to effectively passes like etc mtab or whatever the modern equivalent is of that. So the system mount table parses it and decides what to do with it. But we do it in a bunch of different places. Just this same loop and then they all do a kind of a half-assed job of it. So basically I'm building a whole actual API. So instead there'll be a thing at the bottom where you say where you ask for information about particular amounts, so kind of a query layer. So you ask for information about particular amounts or particular data sets or whatever, and it will say, yes, that data set is mounted in these 5 places, or yes, that mount point has these 5 data sets, or it's mounted multiple times at this point, or whatever. And then you can also say to it, give me back the results in an order that if I just run through them and go unmount, 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 I will not get any conflicts because I'm doing them in the right order. I'm not trying to unmount a lower level before an upper level.
yes, please.
And then because like that's one we already fall over on. And then there'll be an addition to that API at the low level where you'll have some kind of mount object and you'll say, and I want to change these properties on it, or I want to move it over, I want it to be mounted over there instead of over here. And then you submit that and it happens in the platform specific way because Linux and FreeBSD are very different on this. They have different low level mounts mounts are not really a POSIX thing. But also I was talking to uh uh why do I always forget his name whenever I want to say it out loud? The fellow who does the Windows and macOS ports. Um Jürgen. And of course on Windows he doesn't have mounts as that kind of thing. And he's got a bunch of, terrible hacks in his libzfs to kind of make it still pretend it has a mount tab file, even though it doesn't, and just weird stuff. So, um, this API should suit non-Unix-ish machines as well, because again, the whole concept is around an object that represents a binding between a mount point and a data set. And you just manipulate these things. So he'll be able to just hand out things that are totally different under the hood because they'll speak whatever Windows options they are. And nothing in the generic code will know any different. This is object-oriented programming for the old programmers in the room. So yes, so it's a lot of work to disentangle because this stuff has just been added to and hacked all through the code over many, many years. It's going to be really nice. And it's already paying off. Last night I did because I'm doing a like a I'm testing it by keeping both code paths in, defanging the old one, but just having it print what it would have done, and then having the new one print what it does as it does it. Um, and just kind of comparing the output that way. And the test case I have is not able to do a clean unmount where there are bind mounts inserted that screw up the order, and the new code, like I didn't even mean it, but the new code is able to unmount a full tree in the right order with all sorts of weird stuff in place. So just because it has more information available to it. So it's like it's paying off. It's looking good. I have no idea how I'm going to present it for review because it's so invasive, but hopefully I can just show it and say, imagine you had this nice thing. Here's the nice thing. Um,
Giving a use case certainly helps enough people hopefully connect with that.
yeah.
I've been temporarily mounting systems that I manually configure, taking off the shelf VM images, and oh my gosh, the mount and unmount sequence can be a challenge, to put it politely. And if you've got reason for hope, that is awesome.
Yeah. No, it should be good. Um, it'll be nice internally and it'll be, yeah, the things that when you've got a weird system, it hopefully won't break so much as it does now.
Is this plumbing for user space ZFS, or it just happened to come along orthogonally and was of obvious importance?
Yeah, it didn't come from user space ZFS, but it will be necessary there. So,
Oh, fair enough. So it's the kind of housekeeping to get there.
yeah,
That's awesome.
it came from I think I talked about it the other week, but it started with an ask from someone at a conference, and then there's a few TrueNAS bug reports of basically similar shapes.
Sure.
I did a weird mount thing, and now things are confused. And there's there's some workarounds have been added to ZFS more recently in the last couple of weeks to work around some of these cases, but I'm trying to fix it properly and forever.
That's
And yeah,
awesome.
and then there'll be. So yeah, we shall see.
Well, that right there is awesome. Is this a project that is halfway along, a quarter along, 99% along?
Probably halfway.
Awesome.
I've written I think 5 different prototypes in the last 2 weeks, and I'm on the actual real production line. It's not done yet, and then I've got to write a bunch more tests. But I'd hope to have a PR in a couple of weeks.
Awesome.
I
Well-
doubt it will be seen before 2.5 though. That'll be up to other people, but I'm like, it's very invasive, and I don't think it belongs in a point release. But
Right.
we shall see.
Are we keeping you from that?
Oh, only in a very abstract way. No,
That
I
was
think
my most
after
abstract goodbye yet to date. So, does anyone else
I
have
see.
topics or questions?
I must go. Mount
You
Sneaky.
suddenly must go. Seriously, anything else from, I don't know, Stu, Steve, Levi, Andrew? I've
I
had
don't have anything.
Okay, I've had an orthogonal breakthrough on single board computers, but it's only kind of sort of ZFS. And actually, the ZFS parts are the part that's been working the whole time, short of those mounts and unmounts. So I'll report on that perhaps more on the Beehive call. But that can wait. Unless, of course, you have a single board computer and you want FreeBSD and ZFS up and running painlessly, I can help you. Who would like the honors? Ooh, leaving
Like
me
and
hanging. Well, thank you,
subscribe.
everyone. Yes, as Andrew said, like and subscribe. I wish you a fantastic rest of the week. And I hope the audio quality wasn't too brutal on this airport Wi-Fi and random headset. Thank you, everyone.
Been great. Travel safe.
Thank you.